again, and welcome everyone to another edition of Rugby Action, coverage of the 1993 Hibernian Summer 7-a-side tournament. First game features the Hibernian Old Boys with the pink shirts and white shorts versus the Blackthorn B-side, a group of aging veterans. Blackthorn will be wearing green jerseys with white pants. Joe Kelly, Charles Hidalgo here with all the coverage as the kickoff and the game underway.
Okay, it's a perfect day for rugby, Chuck, and this is the kind of weather for 7-a-side rugby, the fast-paced, hard-action game that I think all the spectators are really going to enjoy. One of the things that we should talk about, Chuck, is a little bit about the 7-a-side game. It's a little bit different than the traditional 15-a-side game. This is a game played in the summer traditionally in most of the home nations, the traditional rugby countries, and has really caught fire here in the U.S. The deal with sevens is the fact that you have a fast-paced, wide-open, fast break kind of rugby game going here where the speed kills. And this is the kind of game that's all wide-open action. There's very few stoppages in play. And it's simply played for 7 minutes at a time, but as you see, the action is virtually non-stop. So what you get is a very exhausting but a very exhilarating game.
Well, there is a whistle, and that means a stoppage of play. A penalty has been called against Blackthorn. That means a free kick as the referee points to the post. They now have a little bit of time to settle down. And the kick is up, and it's good. Clears the uprights. Penalty worth 3. Hibernians jump out on top. It's 3-0 early in the first half.
Earlier, Chuck, I was contrasting the 7-a-side game to the traditional 15-a-side game. What's interesting is that the game is played on the exact same size or same dimension field. So what you have is a great deal of space for people to make breaks in the open field with the ball. Frankly, for the tournament purposes, the fields are modified slightly and are not as large as you might traditionally see, but it still leaves an awful lot of space for 7 guys to run around. As you can imagine, it's particularly hard to defend here because nearly all of the tackles have to be accurate open field tackles in order to stop the team in attack, unless, of course, they bobble the ball, as we just saw Blackthorn do there.
And, of course, there are very few rule changes from the normal 15-a-side, except the length of the game has been cut from 40-minute halves to 7-minute halves. And then, of course, the championship games, they play 10-minute halves, and that's what all these teams are in a tournament to reach a championship game. It's a sort of a round-robin elimination type tournament. And also by limiting the halves to 7 minutes, 14-minute games with a minute of rest in between the two halves, it gives you a chance to play a lot of games in a single day, and thus the sevens game lends itself very well to tournament play.
Chuck, you can see that we just had a scrummage there between Blackthorn and the Hibernians, and it's 3 people in the scrum. In traditional 15-a-side rugby, we have 8 people in the scrum. It's just 3 pushing on 3, and it's probably one of the things, one of the aspects of play that rugby's most noted by, that scrummaging. It's a real modified version there, and it tends to be a very quick-paced kind of endeavor.
There's a try by Blackthorn.
Yeah, that's a former prop, a former prop taking the ball in there for a try.
He's a big lad, but he has some speed.
He does have some speed, doesn't he?
7-3, Blackthorn now on top. They strike the first try of the game. A try being a football equivalent to touchdown is worth 5 points, Joe.
Exactly, worth 5 points, and the conversion when kicked directly through the goalpost is worth 2 points. So thus we have a 7-3 match right now. That penalty kick, as Chuck mentioned earlier, is worth 3. So here we see a grappling that we typically call a ruck or a maul in the traditional game, and in the 7-a-side it amounts to the same thing. Generally, you won't see the number of bodies in there. As a matter of fact, if anything, that wasn't good rugby sevens form because we saw too many people committed to that engagement there.
This local Hibernian rugby club has people from throughout Lower Bucks County and surrounding counties as well participating on the squad. None of these players are paid. They're just individual amateur athletes who are out for some fun.
Naturally, you've got to be pretty dedicated to the game and maintain a fairly high level of conditioning in order to compete successfully in this game. Here comes a break from Blackthorn. This is one of the features of the 7-a-side game. If you break that initial tackle line, you have a real good chance of going all the way because there aren't deep defenders or cover defenders.
Well, there the defender ran a long way to catch up to him and was unsuccessful. By the time he caught him, he had crossed the try zone and was able to down the ball for 5 points. Now, the defender there became exhausted chasing the guy who broke away and didn't get any points to score. So does that play into the strategy of these teams? Letting up when you see a breakaway, not chasing, saving your energy for a more offensive, perhaps more productive burst?
Good observation, Chuck. You will note that in watching some of the games this afternoon that you'll see, players make that break, and very often if the defending side sees that guy has a pretty good bit of distance on him and it's pretty impossible to make up, they're not going to waste their time by hustling downfield. They've got to conserve the energy, for the next surge when they have the ball. As I mentioned earlier on the kickoff, the idea here is if you win the coin toss, you're always going to elect to receive the ball, simply because possession in Rugby Sevens is so critical in such a short period of time. It's really 9/10 of the game. It's important in 15s, of course, but here you have a limited amount of time to make use of the ball, so you want to take advantage of having it every chance that you get and try to keep it alive.
Possession is the name of the game, and the Highbows have the ball now. Johnny Miller with the ball, zigzagging, looking for an open man to pass to. The support's not there. He finally gets the ball back to Bobby Gaynor, who throws an outlet pass to the wing. Now, the winger is looped by the prop, who's on a roll. He zigzags, but there is an infraction, and the referee halts play.
That was an interesting bit of maneuvering by Johnny Miller of the Hibernians there. That's not something you again see in the 15s game too often, that kind of running around, attempting to bide time, keep possession of the ball, and hopefully draw the defense into making a mistake before you deliver it. Even though Johnny wasn't able to get off a good pass, there was a supporter behind him, and that guy was able to pick up the ball and make something of it. Unfortunately, it didn't result in a scoring opportunity, but it.
What you just saw there was a line out. That was Chris Kastner throwing through the lane, and apparently the ball was intercepted by Blackthorn, and they break, and then the Highbros get it right back, but then Blackthorn gets it back, and there's a try in the corner. Blackthorn. 17-3 the score now.
It appears that Hibernian mistakes are really costing them dearly in this match. 2 interceptions there right in a row resulted in a try. Prior to that, a defensive breakdown and a long score. The Hibernians, unfortunately, seem to be beating themselves.
And the conversion is up and good. The conversion worth 2 points. The graphic didn't correctly display that. It's actually 19-3. There's the kickoff this time to the Blackthorn, which, he fakes like it went out of bounds, and he keeps it in, throwing the Highbows off on a little bit. Now Blackthorn in control, moving the ball upfield. Good support and passing.
You'll see, Chuck, that very often when a player goes into the tackle, that ball will come rolling back or bouncing back behind him. And it looks like an inappropriate move on the part of the ball carrier, but in sevens, your players are trained to follow the ball carrier and provide support directly behind him, so likely that will result in one of your own teammates picking it up and being able to play the ball on. That was a good move on Blackthorn's part in attempting to fake that out of bounds and take it up. I think they seduced the Hibernians into slowing up in their defensive pattern.
There's Doc Stow getting kicked and punched. Not too happy with the outcome of that little skirmish, but no real damage done there.
Well, it's a contact sport, and occasionally tempers flare. But generally, the players are just a little too beat from all the action to get real physical in terms of fighting.
Right, you people at home are watching this game, but these players have actually played 5 or 6 games already to get to where they are this far in the tournament. This is the playoffs after the elimination round. The teams that win their respective divisions and a wild card team will make it into the playoffs. The Highbows are in the playoffs because they were the wild card winners. Blackthorn winners of their division, but an experienced side. They've been here before.
Yeah, a nice blend of veteran players and younger players and some good team speed. Something that the Hibernians lack. The Hibernians have some very tough, hard tackling players and some hard runners, but they don't have that breakaway speed that allows them to get those long tries or sometimes make the tackles on the breakaways.
And there's Blackthorn beating the Highbows to the outside with speed. A try in the corner. And that one will just about put the nail in the coffin for the Highbows. There's Man on the ground, obviously exhausted, giving 100%. Could not save the try. We'll call it 25-3. The conversion is up and good. 27-3 the score.
Not enough can be said about the need for conditioning in this sevens game. You know, Chuck, you mentioned earlier that it's played for 7-minute halves, and that doesn't sound like a terribly long period of time to be out on a field at any point, especially when you compare it to the traditional 15-man game, where you actually have have players out there for 40 minutes. But because it's all action, it's akin to if any of you have ever been on the wrestling mat or in the boxing ring for those few minutes at a time. That's the kind of exhaustion that you experience when you're out there constantly running, grappling, tackling, getting up on the ground, getting knocked down, et cetera, et cetera. It's really, really a very tiring thing.
The Hibos winning the ball on the line out, lose it after they string out the ball to the wing. Now they get it right back. Again, possession being bounced back and forth. There's Johnny Miller to Mike Walton. Mike Walton being hounded. He gets a pass off to Bobby Gaynor. Now Gaynor spins and moves, rolls to his right, looks for support. And a whistle.
I think he may have called that a forward pass, but it looks like the match is over.
That's the ball game. 27-3, the final score. Blackthorn defeats the Hibernians and advances to the next round of the playoffs.
Good job by Blackthorn and a solid effort by the Hibernians.
And Blackthorn will advance to the next round and play New York. The New York RFC Sevens side. We'll have that game coming up next. This is actually the B-side final. And not your best players in this bracket, but certainly some experienced, perhaps not as speedy players, but you get a lot of good play in this B-side league. And these two teams, of course, are going to play a good game, I'm sure of it.
Chuck, I agree with you. What you have is a scatter of the levels of talent in play in the B-side division. You have some top-level players that can play with anyone, and some of the other players are maybe not as experienced or quite as athletic as the players in the open or qualifying divisions. But nonetheless, it's spirited, and you'll see some excellent play here. Some of the seven-side rugby that we saw in the first match wasn't the prettiest seven-a-side in terms of actual technique or form, but it certainly was physical, and that's always enjoyable to watch.
And a breakaway try by New York puts them on top. It's 5-0. They'll now go for the conversion. There's the kick. It's up and perfect. 7-0 the score. New York takes an early lead on a breakaway. Blackthorn trailing by 7. Blackthorn's a local club. They're actually based in Philadelphia, northeast Philadelphia, and New York. Well, they've got a couple of clubs in New York. This is perhaps just one of their teams.
The Blackthorn side is, plays some very, very good, sophisticated sevens. They have a pretty good team scheme, and that's a real key in this game too, Chuck. What you need to do is have a system in sevens, not just go out and throw the ball around randomly. It may look like that to the uninitiated, but usually there's a pattern of play that each team is looking to do. You see a lot of cat and mouse kind of intrigue in this game, where players try to draw defenders into making a mistake before they attempt to make a break themselves or pass the ball off. There's an awful lot of looping players, looping support, and it's almost the equivalent of setting up a pick in basketball. And I think that's probably one of the best analogies to make. This is sort of like a fast break version of rugby football, with a lot of basketball-like skills involved here.
Except there's no forward passing allowed.
That's right.
Any ball that is knocked forward or passed forward, the whistle is blown and play is called dead, unless the referee deems there's an advantage by the team that did not make the violation, and therefore play will continue in that regard under the referee's discretion. You follow me there, folks?
I'm following you, Chuck.
Okay.
Basically, you see all passing is to a player supporting from behind you, and at the very least, it's player parallel to you. But a pass forward is obviously not allowed. Sometimes the referees will miss them in the heat of the action, so you may observe a few that seem very forward, and the referee might not have caught it. He's out there, and he's got a real task on his hands on this big field, refereeing 14 players at a time and trying to keep his eye on every possible infraction and keeping his eye on the movement of the ball.
It's a fast fast-paced game, and the two teams scoring often and early, exchanging tries. 12-7 New York now with the lead again.
On those kickoffs that you see in 7-a-side and in 15s rugby, one of the things that I see lacking here is an attempt for the kicking team to make the ball more available to their own players. You know, really the kickoff should be thought of as almost an attacking ploy, and basically what we're seeing here is this high looping kicks to the defense or to the receiving side, and it's making it easier for them to take the ball and not allow your own players to get under it and contend that kick. That ball is anybody's ball once it's kicked. That's one of the interesting aspects of the rugby game itself, is that when you kick a ball ahead, or whether it's in a punting form or a grubber kick along the ground, that ball is anybody's ball and can be used to your advantage if you're there quickly enough.
There was an unusual timeout called by the referee. Apparently it's an injury timeout too. A guy must have had a muscle cramp up on him. He'll walk it off. Very seldom we see a player leave the game. They usually play injured or, you know, whatever. Shake it off and stay in there and rough it out.
Technically, Chuck, the injured player is allowed a minute, and if the player isn't recovered within that minute, and they're fairly liberal with that, then the player will be asked to leave the field if that's possible, or to be taken off the field if that's advisable medically.
Play starts out of the set scrum. Blackthorn gets it out to the wing. There's Stewie with a breakaway, a sidestep, and he's gone. He'll be tough to catch. The aging veteran has some speed. He's pushed, falling short of the try zone. They scramble for the ball. Diving over it and driving is Blackthorn, and a whistle.
The try was awarded, Chuck.
No, they said that the Blackthorn player went over the top.
Oh, you're right.
In the ruck. It's a penalty, and New York is awarded possession.
You're correct, Chuck. That was a great break by Stewie McClay. Stu is well up in his 30s, but still among the fastest players in the area, and he has that great open stride. It was a real effort on the part of the defender to catch him right before he scored that try.
New York kicks in the touch, and that's halftime. 12-7 to score at the half. We won't show you the halftime. There's no parade. There's no cheerleaders. What's this?
Is this a new side, Chuck?
No, what happened here is, if you may have noticed in that first half, the player had his jersey ripped, and the rule states that all players must have the same color jerseys. So the New York side changed jerseys because they didn't have another black one. So now they're wearing this reddish-orange color, depending on your TV set, too.
From the look of it, Chuck, many of the teams play in T-shirts, which is not a rugby tradition in terms of the 15 games, but in deference to the heat during the summertime, they'll play in either modified short-sleeve rugby jerseys or in T-shirts. And you see lots of rips and so on, and that happens in the course of a day in a game like sevens, where you get those reaching tackles in an effort to keep people from breaking away, etc.
Right, a regular rugby jersey, because of its construction, is not easy to rip, practically impossible. But because of the thickness of the material, it doesn't lend itself to this type of weather. They're playing in 90-degree heat. It's hot. This was a tournament that took place in June?
July.
July, actually.
Mid-July.
Okay. There's another set scrum. This time, ball one on the hook by Manhattan. We'll call it New York's ball, but now given over to Blackthorn on the tackle. Blackthorn, with a lot of support there, gets the ball to the outside. There's a prop with a breakaway, a straight arm and a dish.
Nice support.
And a try. Blackthorn. Great little bit of unselfish play there, and that'll get you points on the board every time. Blackthorn ties it with a chance to go ahead on the conversion. The kick is up, and it's good. Blackthorn, 14, New York 12.
This has really become quite a match, Chuck.
Absolutely.
The ensuing kickoff, it goes directly to touch, Chuck. That means that the ball is going directly out of bounds, and the kick is called back to the center of the field, and the other team is awarded an opportunity to have a scrum, which is to their advantage. They get to put the ball in between the players, and the attacking side will have an advantage provided their scrum is able to hold up and provide enough push.
Of course, with the normal rugby scrum, there are 8 players in the scrum. Here they have just 2 front rows, so there's a different kind of strategy used by the props and the hookers here. The way they bind is also a little bit different, letting the hooker come out a lot quicker.
Exactly, Chuck. Yeah, it gets out very rapidly and makes the ball playable very, very quickly. As you can see, Blackthorn won the scrum very nicely, but the opposing scrum half, that's the fellow that puts the ball in, and the defending scrum half were very quick to the ball. The defender really messed up the possession for the Blackthorn scrum half, and it resulted in them ending up with the ball going backwards. Here's another movement by Blackthorn. Let's take a break at the wing with a nice kick ahead. Now, Chuck, that's something you don't see all that much of in 7-a-side rugby.
Kicking ahead like that.
Kicking ahead like that. You'll see that much more frequently in 15-a-side rugby.
Well, you talked of the importance of possession. When you're kicking, you're giving the ball an opportunity to be had by the other team.
You hit the nail right in the head, Chuck. The opportunity for them to regain possession is fairly risky, and even though it can be a good tactical move at times, it needs to be done with caution. And in this case, Blackthorn ends up losing possession despite some territorial gain. And fortunately, they intercepted that throw-in. That was not their throw-in.
New York's long kick to touch gets Blackthorn the line out, and they maintain possession, moving the ball, weaving it in and out, falling short of the try line. But relentless pressure by Blackthorn. They're in what you would call a maul of sorts. And a whistle.
A whistle. Someone was offsides in that mauling situation, apparently. And now New York is going to get to play the ball out.
Trying to get the ball out quickly before Blackthorn can set up. Apparently, they may have thrown the ball forward there.
That's exactly what the referee is calling.
And it's going to be a Blackthorn ball.
And just about a meter away from the try line.
Good position for Blackthorn. A definite score is imminent if they can just figure out a way to break their defense. Trying to jam it up through the backs, doesn't work. Good defense by New York. Blackthorn scrambles for the ball. Ball dished back, nobody there. They scramble back to pick it up. And now they're going to weave and bob with it, try and get it in. Still trying. Good defense by New York. Relentless pressure by Blackthorn. Eventually pays off with a try.
They did well to maintain that possession for as long as they had, and they finally broke the defense down and put it in the corner.
19-12. Blackthorn pulling away. And this kick worth 2 if it's good from the right side. It's up. It's a beautiful kick. But did it go through the uprights? Yes. The man lifting the flag up in the air signals it was good, and the score 21-12. Blackthorn on top.
Here's the ensuing kickoff. Blackthorn receiving and using the kick to touch effectively here, I believe. Yeah.
Well, they're also going to use the clock to their advantage. They've got a sizable lead, little time remaining in this match.
It's another time in the game when using the kick is a wise tactic, obviously, Chuck. This way it
eats a little bit of the clock.
Eats a little bit of the clock and takes the pressure off the Blackthorn side and allows them to regroup and doesn't allow the continuous play that New York might need to get themselves back into this. Here's a penalty awarded to New York. They're not going to attempt to kick a goal. Of course, they need that try, and they're going to go for it.
Trying to jam it up the middle. Now they're going to whisk it out to the outside. Trying to turn the corner. Good defense by Blackthorn, and it is still in possession of New York, but they're not moving it forward. It's a lot easier to run sideways, but you don't go anywhere. There's a loose ball picked up by Blackthorn and a breakaway. He's being chased. But he's caught his open stride. He won't be caught. It's going to be a try that'll put the nail in the coffin.
A little
late hit there, and in your face.
Unsportsmanlike conduct.
And a little in your face. The referee doesn't take him too kindly to it. Certainly and he wants to have words with this showboatsman.
Yeah. We have showboaters. we have
showboaters.
We have showboaters on both sides. I think this fellow's getting advised about his taunting, and the fellow that put that little late hit on him is probably going to get a lecture from the referee as well.
Well, he has a reason to smile. Blackthorn has a 25-12 lead, and the game in the bag as little time remains in this 7-minute half. Oh, there's a hooked kick. It was awfully hooked, pulled to the left, but he doesn't care. The game's over.
The game's over.
It's at 25. What happened to the score there? Wait a second. Well, that's right. 25-12, the final score. Blackthorn, the 1993 Hibernian Summer Sevens B-side champions. They've won this tournament, actually, in the Open and qualifying division a couple of years ago. Well, there's a happy group of campers there. They played hard. I think they're most happy just to be done playing. It's been a long day for these guys. They started playing about 8 o'clock in the morning, and here, you know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, they finally get a break. They can go drink now, right?
And the rugby tradition of clapping the other team off and walking through the tunnel with a handshake is one of the, I think, positives of the game. No matter what kind of hard feelings may have occurred on the field, they're forgotten as soon as the final whistle blows.
One of the few sports where that occurs. And the Open Division final coming up next. Old Blue versus Omex.
We have two excellent open sides here. This is Omex off with the ball very, very quickly, and appears to putting a try in right off the kickoff. That's fantastic.
That was almost like a set play off the kickoff that worked, and Old Blue didn't have an answer. They didn't expect that.
They certainly didn't.
So Omex strikes first blood early and sets the tone of this ball game.
We have two traditional Rugby Sevens rivals from New York City. Old Blue, traditionally the club champions in New York, and Omex always competitive. They're a team that merged a couple of sides a number of years ago, Old Maroon and Essex Rugby Club, to become Omex, and they've always been competitive in seven-a-side. Well, interesting note there. The fellow number 1 that just made that tackle was a former kick returner for the New York Jets, and we have some real quality athletes out here in this particular match. And I think you'll be able to see by the rapid pace of this game and the foot speed.
Well, this is the ultimate team game in the sense that if you had a team composed of great athletes, they wouldn't stand a chance of winning against a team that played as a team together as one unit. Because it's a game where you need the support, you need the individual breakaway speed, sure, but I mean teamwork, you can't emphasize that enough.
There's no question about that, Chuck. And when you combine team speed and teamwork, you've got a lethal seven-a-side. You saw some nice open field tackling there, and question of whether that ball was thrown incorrectly in the lineouts. If it's not thrown in straight, typically a scrum is awarded to the other side, or they can get to choose to do another lineout. In this case, it appears that Old Blue chose the scrum and won it fairly handily. A nice little
Old Blue with a little set play, and the breakaway sets the man free. The winger shooting through the gap, up the middle, scores the try easily. 5-5, it's a try by Old Blue. The conversion is good as well. That puts Old Blue on top, 7-5. Old Blue wearing the white jerseys, of course, if you haven't figured that out. And Omex in the stripes. Old Blue at the ball. A pitch out to the wing. A wise move. The speedy winger now halts play, brings it back to the inside. Again, the support is there. They drive up to midfield, and they drive and they push. Omex strips the ball away. Old Blue, though, tries to get it back. Ball's on the ground and fought for. Picked up by an Old Blue player. He tries to dish a pass, but gets knocked off balance, and it's loose ball again, and a whistle. This time it's going to be a scrum put in by Omex.
And one-handedly by Omex.
With dish out, and the kick to touch. Does not go out, stays in.
But Omex with wonderful pursuit gains possession and regains possession.
Perhaps that was a kick to the wing rather than a kick to touch.
That may have been a tactical move to take pressure off and to try to make the ball available to their own winger. Omex did a pretty nice job on that, but unfortunately, I think there must have been a forward pass there, and they ended up in a scrummage with Old Blue winning that.
There's another whistle.
Penalties awarded to Old Blue. I'm not sure why, Chuck. I missed that.
Might have been an offsides.
Most likely. Interestingly, Old Blue from back deep in their own territory is going to attempt to run the penalty play rather than kick, and that's another.
There was a poor job of defense there by Omex.
Yeah, someone missed a man there, and he literally waltzed through that defending back line.
Oh, he literally did. My grandmother runs faster than that. Nah, I'm just teasing. But try by Old Blue, and the conversion's good. 5-point try, 2-point conversion at the half. It's Old Blue 14, Omex 5. In a game that Omex set the pace, the tone, scoring early, they haven't been able to score since. Old Blue settling down and putting a couple of good tries on the board.
Yeah, Old Blue's ball handling has been fantastic. They've really gotten their act together very, very quickly and reciprocated with a couple of quick tries. It's interesting, Chuck, that the halftime is not much by what we in America think of halftime standards. It's 1 minute long, so it just basically allows the players to get a quick drink, maybe a word or two about tactics or strategy, and back on the pitch again.
Well, players actually can't leave the field at halftime.
No, they can't.
Technically.
Without special permission by the referee.
That's why you saw the water being brought out to the players. And the second half underway. The kickoff to Old Mex is batted away by an Old Blue player. And it's, you saw what the guy did there. He dropped the ball behind him, hoping the support was there, and it paid off. There was support. And Old Blue on the break. They could score. Try.
You know, Chuck, that's what I was talking about earlier when we talked about the kickoff itself being an attacking move. That allowed an Old Blue player to get under that kick and tap it backwards, as you pointed out, to his own players, and they made something of it. That was one of the quickest ways to attack. Kickoffs are a very frequent occurrence in sevens because it's a relatively high-scoring game, and a team that masters kickoff tactics and strategies is a team that you'll often find on the winning side, both the receiving the kick and kicking off.
And Old Blue has blown this game wide open. Omex trailing by 19 points. 21-5 the score.
Believe me, Chuck, this is a good, solid Omex side that Old Blue is really taking to task here. So this is really quite an accomplishment on their part.
A scrum at midfield. Scrum half had a hard time getting his hands on it. Well, somehow the prop broke loose, or standoff perhaps got a hold of the ball, but Omex gets it back. Now they're going to move the ball around midfield into Old Blue territory. A tackle and a long pass to the wing, trying to get Old Blue offside, but he dropped the ball, knocked it forward before being tackled. The ref will play the advantage for just a bit, and there is no advantage gained, so, well, there wasn't an advantage at all because the guy actually dropped it and maintained possession. I don't know, it was just a late whistle.
Yeah, a late whistle there. You notice the ball carrier, that's Vinny Bernetti of Omex, demonstrated some of his running prowess there as he just leveled one of the Old Blue carriers, but unfortunately for him it didn't result in anything positive happening. It certainly shows you the caliber of power of some of these athletes.
There's a feint to the right side, a pass back, and a kick to touch. Again, a safety valve, but it doesn't fall into touch. No. It stays in.
And here they come pursuing.
Omex scrambles to pick it
scrambles.
Up. There's a penalty on Old Blue. He held the guy down on the ground.
Yeah, he obstructed that player from getting retaining the ball. The referee picked that up pretty quickly and is penalizing him.
Well, so Omex will have the ball, and they'll try and work a set play, as the backs spread it out and line up ready to go. There's a tap, a foot through the ball.
Sorry, Omex being behind right now has little choice but to attempt to run a penalty play from back deep in their own end zone because they really need the scores. And they can't afford to do something like kick safely for touch.
Pretty good blanket defense by team in white. There's a kick deep in Old Blue territory. And Old Blue kicks it out of bounds. The clock continues to wind down.
You heard the moans of the crowd there as that player from Omex got the kick off. He was tackled almost simultaneously. Some people thought that might have been a bit of a late hit and obstructing him from pursuing his own kick. The referee didn't see it that way, and obviously no penalty was awarded.
Right, because unlike American football, you cannot tackle a player if they don't have possession of the football.
Exactly.
In this case, rugby ball, scrum down in Old Blue territory. It's a put in by Old Blue, and ball's out to the standoff. He puts a kick up. This one's going to stay in. Again, with the big lead that they have, just trying to kill the clock. Wind it down. Maintain.
That's basically, those are take off the pressure type kicks at this point.
Get it out of their deep zone. Omex now scrambling to do something with the rugby ball. They break away. This nice little bit of rucking done there for sevens. Now dish it out to the backs. They take off. It's a foot race. This guy's got some speed. Nobody out there can catch him. And he fakes a touchdown, and now he does score a try. Omex with a late try, 21-10. Too little, too late.
Respectability time for Omex solely at this point. Just to mention, Chuck, the caliber of athlete, you see the ponderous thighs there of Vinnie Brunetti. Number 2 on Omex, Lyndon Gross. I assisted Emil Cygnus, the U.S. Rugby Sevens coach and guru, and the East Rugby Sevens coach right now, in fitness testing for the East All-Stars. And Lyndon, for instance, is a player at about 6'2", 235 pounds, and can do 20 consecutive full squats with 400 pounds. So, you know, we're talking, you know, quality athletes here in this level of rugby.
They're certainly not typical rugby players. Most rugby players are not that well conditioned, and anybody can play this game. There's a level of rugby for just about everyone in the United States.
Oh, that's a good point, Chuck. You know, these are among the more exceptional players we're seeing here right now. Certainly, it's a game made for all body types and sizes. You can capitalize on being small and quick, and you can capitalize on being big and strong, and you can capitalize on being fast at any height or weight, that's for sure. But you know, there's levels of play that are suitable for everyone. Just about every team supports a number of sides, and if you prefer not to play it at the highest competitive levels, you can play a much more social end of the game and play for typically what the teams term their B or even C sides, depending on the size of the respective club.
All Blue scores a try late in the second half. They'll put up a conversion, an easy 2 points there. 28-12, as the goal scored after try is good. And that's the final score. The referee blows his whistle. 28-12. All Blue, the 1993 Hibernian Summer Sevens Open Division champions.
You know, Chuck, I think this was a typical 7-a-side game that would appeal to the average spectator, someone who's unacquainted with the game. I thought that was quite well played, with lots of open breaks, lots of good ball handling, solid open field tackling, and really a pretty version of the 7-a-side game. Both sides acquitted themselves nicely, with Old Blue obviously being dominant.
That's right, Joe. We hope to see more of this good play in this next game, which features the Hartford Wanderers versus PAC.
Yeah, Chuck, PAC is the Potomac Athletic Club from Washington, D.C., and they've emerged to become a major rugby power in the East and nationally as well. And I would expect exactly that. I think we should see continued great play. We have some high-caliber athletes here, many of whom are all-star caliber, would play for the Rugby East All-Stars, and there may even be a national-level player involved in this match or two. So hopefully we'll see that kind of quality.
The Hartford Wanderers in green, moving from right to left in the first half. PAC in the red striped jerseys on the left side. The opening kickoff was, there was an infraction or some reason, a re-kicking. Again, what could have occurred there, Joe?
Chuck, I'm not sure why we're having a re-kick on that particular one. I have a feeling maybe the referee blew his whistle and hadn't had an acknowledgement from the opposing captain. So he probably just recalled the kick for that simple reason.
Well, that takes a little bit of time off the clock, or would the referee just say?
I think the referee would accommodate an instance like that and not start time until the kick reoccurs.
We're playing 7-minute halves throughout the tournament, except these championship games, the Open Division and Qualifying Division championship game. We're playing 10-minute halves, an extended version of the Sevens tournament.
As a player, that's not the most appealing thing to have happen at the very end of the day in a final match, to know that you've got to go 3 extra minutes per half. That 3 minutes can seem like an eternity at the end of a long, hot day. But certainly it does give each team advantage to try everything in their repertoire to win. Oh, we had a near intercepted pass that was knocked forward or knocked on. That's the term we use in rugby. Chuck pointed that out earlier, and that results in a scrum to the opposing side.
So there is that endurance factor that also plays into the game. A good team to win in this type of tournament has to be not only well conditioned, but they have to play together as a unit and have good speed.
Those are all absolutely critical aspects of the game, and having that short-term anaerobic endurance to play in those bursts, and the long-term aerobic endurance, and just general stamina to go through a long day in the heat is obviously necessary here. So far, the game is looking rather scrappy, not as flowing as the Open Final. it's obviously being hard fought, but we don't see the quality of clean play.
Whoa, there's a
nice
spin
break
move
by
and a break.
Hartford, yeah.
A try is scored, and he loves it. 5-0. Hartford draws first blood, scoring the first try of this Manear Cup Final.
Yeah, resulting from scrappy play. He simply broke out of the arms of a tackler and just sped into the end zone. It wasn't set up because of some tactic or strategy, but just persistence in that case.
This Manear Cup is named after our late head coach, Gary Manear. It's been named after him for about the last...
I guess it's at least 10 years now.
10 years or so. And like the Stanley Cup, the Manear Cup has traveled around the country, and I'm sure could tell some stories.
Chuck, we might note too that the division that is being the championship division right now we call qualifying, and what that means is that these teams qualify, okay, to play in the Eastern Championships and hopefully have a shot at playing in the National Club Championships. So this particular division is for teams that haven't previously qualified on the basis of winning another 7-a-side tournament during the summer. So the stakes are rather high here if these teams have ambitions to move up the ladder in terms of championship play for dominance in the East.
And of course, rugby union is an amateur sport in the utmost regard. Nobody gets paid. They're doing this surely for the sheer pleasure of competition. And winning is also nice. I mean, if you can win, all that blood and sweat you shed is definitely worth it in the end. Theirs looks like a penalty deep in Hartford. They'll get the ball as the penalty was against Pack. Hartford moving the ball up the left side, out to the wing. He stopped and dumps the ball off, knocking it forward in the process. Nice tackle there, but it looks like it's going to be a Pack throw-in on the scrum. He fed him scrum there a little bit, gets the ball out. The wing is to the outside, but he sidesteps over a player and breaks away. Try.
That's all it takes, Chuck, in this game. You know, a sidestep and you're away very often. And boy, oh boy, that really puts a lot of pressure on the individual defenders. That's not a question.
Well,
you've
Joe,
been out there, Chuck. You know what it's like, and I've been out there as well.
Do these teams use a combination of man-to-man and zone, or how do they defend the particular players? Because a person with outstanding speed going against an opposing player in the same position might not be as fast. That would make a big advantage there. But
you're absolutely right, Chuck.
How do you compensate for things like that?
Teams do have very specific defensive schemes that they try to employ, and of course, what the attacking side is looking for, that overmatch or sometimes one-on-one matchup where the speedier player has maybe a larger and possibly slower player against him to make that break. What teams do to compensate is they generally try to align their quicker players on the flanks, on the outside, and generally one person is designated to do what they call a sweep, so that if someone does break through the tackle line or beats their man one-to-one, you have a player sort of playing a deep zone and attempting to cover defend if a break is made. However, it's easier said than done. You know, sometimes you can get fake, caught in the tackle, think the ball's coming back your way, forget to get across the field as quickly as you need to, and boom, the attacker is away with the ball. We saw a lot of this today, Chuck. Long breaks off another team's mistake, too. That's another thing. One simple mistake can result in a try quite readily in a game like this. In the 15s game, an inadvertent pass or drop ball may not mean a heck of a lot in a game where 30 players are playing, but in a 7-a-side game, a simple casual mistake can result in a try like lightning.
But just like that, the teams can answer back. The score tied at 7 here. We're in the first half of this Manear Cup Final. Hartford Wanderers kicked the ball out of bounds, and how did they get possession if they are the ones that kicked it out?
Oh, that's the new rule, Chuck, and that's something to point out too, that when you're awarded a penalty and you kick the ball out of bounds or to touch, okay, you retain possession of the ball, and that's a new rule as of this past year. And it gives a greater weight to having a penalty. Now you can gain territorial advantage by kicking it downfield and to touch or out of bounds, and then retain possession as well. So that really gives the attacking side, or the side that's awarded the penalty a tremendous advantage, and of course makes committing a penalty all that much more problematic.
There's a kick to the left side, rolling into touch, and there'll be a line out. Looks like the ball left the foot. Well, there's the whistle. That's halftime. Players will take their little intermission, get a drink of water, and at the half, the score is still knotted at 7.
This is a tight game.
Been scrappy. Not as pretty to watch, I think, as the game before this, but perhaps the second half we'll see these two teams settle down and play some good sevens. There's a loose ball and kick forward, which is a good, positive way to advance the ball. But
I think it must have gone out, gone to touch on that, Chuck.
Looked like it might have.
In the line out here. This is where players' basketball skills, people with a basketball background, come into play too. These lineouts, not as critical in the 7-a-side. There don't tend to be as many because there's less kicking than in the 15s game, and you're playing 2-on-2, so sometimes quickness can overcome height. But the person throwing the ball in is throwing it into designated jumpers, and having a good vertical leap and nice hands like a basketball rebounder is a very, very useful skill to have in this sport.
Hartford with the ball off the penalty. Oh, intercepted by Pack, and it's a breakaway. Good defense by Hartford. He drops the ball to a teammate, picks it up, and it's a Hartford ball on the steal. Good defense by Hartford. Now with the ball, whisking it out to the open man in the middle. He fakes left, moves to his right, sidesteps another player, and breaks away. He's got some speed. He could go all the way. Looks like it is a try. Hartford. There's a case of an individual doing it all by himself there. Of course, there was a nice little outlet pass on the left side that set him free. That was a good team play.
Yeah, it was. It was a good combination of team play and individual effort. And there's no question, Chuck, that in this game, in 7-a-side, individual effort is probably much more readily rewarded than in the 15s game. Having a player with that type of broken field, open field running ability and speed is something that's very, very, very difficult to defend. Speed, as I said earlier, speed kills in this game, and that's exactly what a good 7-a-side wants, especially guys out on the wings or out on the flanks of your attacking side, to be able to really put the pressure on if you can give them a little space.
And Hartford leads it now 14-7. Pack kicking off. The ball must travel 10 meters on the kickoff, and then a player on your own side can touch it, and only then. There was an instance where the ball did not travel 10 meters. And, well, there was an edit there. We couldn't see exactly what happened. There's a loose ball deep in Hartford territory, and it's knocked out of bounds, looked like by a Pack player. We'll have a line out and a throw in by Hartford.
You'll see that tactic sometimes. That was done purposely by a Hartford player, and it offered just to clear the ball and stop the ability, of a Pack player, and stop the ability of Hartford to continue their attack. Oh, and
there's a quick strike, a try off the throw-in in the corner.
You'll often see that in a clean take and a throw-in near goal. Players, if they react quickly and take a clean line out, will just dip their shoulder and sort of turn the corner and take it in for a try.
Very difficult angle to kick. Oh. And the reason for that, Joe, is?
Oh, yeah. In rugby rules, what occurs is the conversion is taken from a point perpendicular to where the try was scored. The player is allowed to take the ball out as far as they would like, but it must remain on line with where the try was scored, and it makes for a very, very difficult kick when a try is scored in the corner. Most players will take it out at least 20 to 25, maybe even 30 meters to attempt that kick, and then, of course, you have the hard angle, to make it from. So having an accurate kicker with the kind of foot that's able to make those conversions can really, really add up, and it's a real necessity in the game.
Which is why you see most teams try and put the ball down between the posts.
And that will occur. You'll often see players run into the try zone, and instead of touching the ball down right where they went in, if they're unobstructed, they will run directly under the post and try to center the ball. Sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not worth trying, because if you're tackled in the end zone and lose the ball, the try isn't awarded. That's a good point, Chuck. We didn't neglected to mention earlier, too, that when the ball is scored, it's different than a football touchdown. In rugby, when you cross the goal line, you must touch the ball down, put downward pressure on the ball. It only has to be momentary. As a matter of fact, if a ball, you arrive and find a ball in the try zone, all you need to do is set your hand on it, and a try would be awarded if you're on the attacking side. But the term touchdown in American gridiron football came from rugby, and I think it's noteworthy that really American football evolved from rugby. It's a hybrid form of rugby football.
There's a pack try. They get a late score, and it's 21-12. Is that what it says?
21-12, Chuck.
The conversion is up, right through the uprights. A good 21-14. Pack coming back. Can they do it? Can they come back from a deep deficit late in the half?
Would be quite a comeback.
In this sevens game, anything can happen. Scores and tries can happen in bunches. It's an opportunistic game. This time,
that's something I alluded to earlier, Chuck. You saw Hartford make an attempt to play the ball in the kick by making a grubber or dribble kick, trying to make it go the 10 meters and then playing it themselves. In this case, the kicker was just going to punch the ball back to one of his own players.
There was an infraction on the field, a penalty, and a kick by Hartford is good, 24-14.
That just may ice it for Hartford in this particular
Your pack at this point, what kind of strategy do you do?
Well, the one thing I wouldn't do is just what they did there, and that is kick the ball to touch and have an ensuing scrum. I'd like to make my kick as playable as possible.
That was probably
hopefully having one of my players run right onto it. See, that not a good tactic there again. Either that ball isn't very playable by your own side.
And Pack sends a kick deep into Hartford territory. It's recovered by Hartford, and they're scrambling to get something going. Hartford, though, content just to wind the clock down at this point with their big lead. There's an infraction, and it looks like Pack's going to be moving the ball.
Yeah, I was a little confused on that infraction. Referee Ed Sorensen awarded a penalty to Pack, and I was thinking that it looked like Pack that was attempting to play the ball sort of from an offsides position, a tackle ball. But what did happen there is Hartford player just neglected to release the ball and make it playable, and got penalized for that.
There's a Pack player doing a good job of keeping his feet, holding on to the ball. There's a good reason why you should tackle low. If you hit the guy high and he keeps his legs, then you have a problem there. It'll be a lot more difficult to get the ball loose. But the ball does come loose, picked up by Hartford on the breakaway. He's tackled and turned it over again. Somehow the momentum's bouncing in Hartford's favor. But a whistle. The final score as the game ends is Hartford 24, Pack 14. That means Hartford is the 1993 Hibernian Summer Sevens Manear Cup champions.
Chuck, it was a better second half, I thought, and the pace of play picked up. The hardness of play was evident. Wasn't as pretty as the open final, but sure was some excellent rugby.
There you have it. The Hartford Wanderers, tip your hats to those boys. Now that the tournament's done and over with, these players will get together with one another and celebrate.
Absolutely, Chuck, an old rugby tradition.